Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
So we'll just sing the Maha Mantra for a few minutes. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Asatya Vishkarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Asatya Vishkarine
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, 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 Jaya
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Welcome for our program. We have this Bhagavad-gita program every Saturday at 5:30 p.m. And today we have the guest speaker, Her Grace Surabhi Kunja Mataji. So she is a disciple of His Holiness Kadamba Swami, who is still famous for his kirtans, wonderful kirtans. Even so, he is not with us, unfortunately, right now. But so Surabhi Kunja Mataji, she was preaching in South Africa, and recently she moved here to New York City to help us spread Krishna consciousness here. So, and maybe, so we are welcoming you, Surabhi Kunja Mataji, and maybe you can tell us a few words about yourself also, or about the projects you are involved in. What is your mission like here? That would be great.
Hare Krishna, thank you all for coming. I feel so overwhelmed being here actually at this most sacred, auspicious place where Srila Prabhupada began the Hare Krishna movement. This room is one of the most sacred places on this planet because Srila Prabhupada started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness here, from which is spread all over the world. So I feel like so grateful and just so blessed and overwhelmed by the transcendental energy in this holy abode. Yeah, I'm from South Africa. I'm just in New York for a few months, and I'm helping out at the Brooklyn Temple and with the Bhakti School. It's a program we have there. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it's a program where we try to share Krishna consciousness with the people of Brooklyn and beyond. So that's my main service here, and just I guess wherever we go, devotees of Krishna are always trying to share the message. That's the point. Wherever we go in the world, that's what I'm trying to do. Trying to serve Srila Prabhupada in some way. So I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you, Sasha Prabhu, and to Atma Nivedan Prabhu for allowing me to be here. So we're reading chapter 6 of Bhagavad-gita, verse 38.
Verse 38.
Mhm. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So I'll just read the verse, the Sanskrit, and then you can repeat the word for word after that. Kachinobaya vibrastas chinabram iva nashyati apratisto mahabaho vimudo brahmanapati. So we can repeat after me. Kachit, whether. Na, not. Ubaya, both. Vibrasta, deviated from. China, torn. Abram, child. Iva, like. Nashyati, perishes. Apratishta, without any position. Mahabaho, almighty armed Krishna. Vimuda, bewildered. Brahmana, of transcendence. Bhakti, on the path.
On the path.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Almighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport. There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He is like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmana Pati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore, one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many, many births. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga, or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadhujatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapte Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Haripriya Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're reading chapter 6 of Bhagavad-gita, where Krishna is explaining to Arjuna about the path of Astanga Yoga, which is all about controlling the mind and senses. And at the beginning of this chapter, Krishna says that the uncontrolled mind is the enemy and the controlled mind is the friend. Does anyone know why that is?
Uncontrolled mind goes wherever,
In any direction.
in any direction.
The uncontrolled mind means that the senses can do whatever they want. They can just run wild. But if the mind is controlled, then the mind can control the senses. Because it said that the senses, the mind is higher than the senses, and the intelligence is higher than the mind. And higher than that is the soul. So if the mind is uncontrolled, the senses will be uncontrolled. If the mind is controlled, then we can control the senses. So this path of Astanga Yoga is all about sitting postures, meditation, controlling the air within, and ultimately getting to a stage of trance where you're absorbed in meditation on the Supersoul. So in earlier verses, Krishna was telling Arjuna just how difficult this path is, because Arjuna doesn't want to fight. He wants to give up. He wants to renounce. So Krishna is telling him exactly what renunciation means. When someone renounces material activities perfectly, this is what it actually means. It doesn't just mean doing nothing. It means, he says, to practice yoga, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusa grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. So this process sounds very rigid, very difficult. And in later verses, Krishna says that you also need to have a very regulated life of eating and sleeping. Not too much eating, not too little eating, not too much sleeping, not too little sleeping. And the mind must be totally focused on the super soul within and completely restrained from all mental activities. So of course, Arjuna says that this path is very difficult. What Krishna is explaining is very difficult. And he actually said it's easier to control the wind than to control the mind. And that gives us a nice vivid example because we see how the wind is going this way and that way. And imagine controlling that. But Arjuna is saying that's easier than trying to control the mind. And so now in the previous verse, after explaining this whole process, Arjuna asks Krishna, "Oh Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism?" And then this verse that we're reading today, "Almighty armed Krishna, is not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence, fall away from both spiritual and material success, and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere." So what is a riven cloud? It's described, Srila Prabhupada describes that when clouds cluster together, then rain comes. But if the wind breaks away one cloud from the cluster, then that cloud there's no possibility of rain coming. So it says in the purport that a cloud may break away from a smaller cloud and try to join a big cloud. But if it doesn't end up joining, then it has nothing. It just withers away. So that's what Arjuna's dilemma is. He's asking whether if we give up our material life and we focus fully on meditation, but then we don't succeed in this meditation in this one life, then do we have nothing? Do we have no position? Because do we have no spiritual life and no material life? Because in one sense, it's in between. We can't go back to material life because we can't enjoy it anymore. After getting some taste of spiritual knowledge, we can't actually go back and enjoy the same way materialists enjoy anymore. We know too much. So if we're in that stage where we can't go back to material life because we know too much, but we also are not advanced enough in spiritual life, then what happens? Like, what are we? So there's also a verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that it's similar, not exactly the same, but it's Srimad Bhagavatam 3:17, and it says, "Both the lowest of fools and he who is transcendental to all intelligence enjoy happiness, whereas persons between them suffer the material pains." So it says that the only people who can be happy are either fools or the transcendentalists, the pure devotees, the Paramahamsas. So, because fools are just happy in material life. They're satisfied. They're engaging in material activities, the ups and downs, and they're just happy. This is all they know. So they're happy in one sense. And then the transcendentalists have pure Krishna consciousness. So they have pure happiness, eternal happiness. But those of us in between who are not yet pure devotees, but we can't go back to material happiness. We're in between. We actually can't be happy until we get the higher taste of transcendental happiness. So it's a similar concept. And Krishna replies in the following verses, saying, "The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people, or into a family of rich aristocracy. Or, if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in this world. So Krishna gives us a lot of hope in these verses. He's saying that we don't lose out. Whatever advancement we've made in this life, it doesn't disappear. We don't go back to zero. We carry it over in the next life. We either go to the heavenly planets and we enjoy the results of our pious activities there, and then when we come back, we're born into an aristocratic family, or we could be born into a family of transcendentalists, or people already interested in spiritual advancement, and then we just pick up from there. So Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture here on this verse in New York City in 1966. So it would have been one of the earlier, like his beginning lectures. And he said that in this verse, it's not only referring to mystic yoga, it's referring to all the process of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, bhakti yoga. The same principle applies, that you don't lose the point that you reach in your spiritual advancement. If we fall from the process, we don't lose anything. We just pick up where we left off. And Srila Prabhupada gave a nice example. He said that in material activities, whatever state you reach in material activities, if you don't complete it, then you have nothing, And he said, let's say you're studying medicine, then you meant to study for 6 years in some places, but let's say you only study for 2 years and then you quit. Then you actually don't have anything. You don't have a medical degree. You can't practice some level of medicine because you didn't finish it. So it's almost like you didn't do anything. But in spiritual life, when you do a percentage, some small percentage, even 1%, then that is eternal. That stays with you forever. And you'll always have that. So in material endeavors, you need to complete it to be successful. Half finished doesn't work, but in spiritual life, everything counts. And in Bhagavad-gita, chapter 2, verse 40, it says, Krishna says this exact point, in this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Because just taking up any aspect of Krishna consciousness guarantees you a human birth in the next life. So it's saving us from the dangerous fear of degrading into the animal species of life in our next life, even if we don't perfect our lives in this one life and go back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada also spoke about this verse in The Perfection of Yoga, his book. And I'm just going to read a little excerpt from it. Srila Prabhupada says, actually, Arjuna is asking a very appropriate and intelligent question. It is not unusual for one to fall down from the platform of devotional service. Sometimes a neophyte devotee does not keep the rules and regulations. Sometimes he yields to intoxication or is trapped by some feminine attractions. These are impediments on the path of yoga perfection. But Sri Krishna gives an encouraging answer, for he tells Arjuna that even if one sincerely cultivates only 1% worth of spiritual knowledge, he will never fall down into the material whirlpool. That is due to the sincerity of his effort. It should always be understood that we are weak and that the material energy is very strong. To adopt spiritual life is more or less to declare war against the material energy. The material energy is trying to entrap the conditioned soul as much as possible. And when the conditioned soul tries to get out of her clutches by spiritual advancement of knowledge, material nature becomes more stringent and vigorous in her efforts to test how much the aspiring spiritualist is sincere. The material energy, or Maya, will then offer more allurements. In this regard, there is the story of Vishwamitra Muni, a great king, a Kshatriya, who renounced his kingdom and took to the yoga process in order to become more spiritually advanced. At that time, the meditational yoga process was possible to execute. Vishwamitra Muni meditated so intently that Indra, the king of heaven, noticed him and thought, this man is trying to occupy my post. The heavenly planets are also material, and there is competition. No businessman wants another businessman to exceed him. Fearing that Vishwamitra Muni would actually depose him, Indra sent one heavenly society girl named Menaka to allure him sexually. Menaka was naturally very beautiful, and she was intent on disrupting the Muni's meditations. Indeed, he became aware of her feminine presence upon hearing the sound of her bangles, and he immediately looked up from his meditation, saw her, and became captivated by her beauty. As a result, the beautiful girl Shakuntala was born by their conjugation. When Shakuntala was born, Vishwamitra lamented, "Oh, I was just trying to cultivate spiritual knowledge, and again I have been entrapped." He was about to flee when Menaka brought his beautiful daughter before him and chastised him. Despite her pleading, Vishwamitra resolved to leave anyway. Thus, there is every chance of failure on the yogic path. Even a great sage like Vishwamitra Muni can fall down due to material allurement. Although the Muni fell for the time being, he again resolved to go on with the yoga process. And this should be our resolve. Krishna informs us that such failures should not be cause for despair. There is the famous proverb that failure is the pillar of success. In the spiritual life especially, failure is not discouraging. Krishna very clearly states that even if there is failure, there is no loss either in this world or in the next. One who takes to this auspicious line of spiritual culture is never completely vanquished. So here we hear about how strong the material energy is, and that actually Maya is doing a service for Krishna. She's testing everyone to make sure that they're pure when they go back to the spiritual world. She's like the guard of the spiritual world. She doesn't allow anybody who's not completely pure to go there. And that's why it's actually her service to test us, so that we become more and more pure to enter the spiritual kingdom. And that's why sometimes you see spiritualists are tested very greatly and sometimes fall down. But the point Prabhupada is making here is that we should never give up when we fall, and that there is no loss even when we fall because of the spiritual benefit that we've accrued already. And the point can be seen that this is Arjuna speaking about how difficult Astanga Yoga is. And Arjuna is highly qualified in a previous age where it's easier to cultivate spiritual knowledge. I mean, we know that Kali Yuga is the most degraded of ages. The previous ages like Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Dwapar Yuga, it was significantly easier for them to practice, to take up spiritual practices, because they were much more pious, much more spiritually elevated, much more peaceful, and the mass of the people were interested in spiritual life. But Arjuna is saying even in a previous age, he still couldn't perform Astanga Yoga. So imagine how impossible it would be for us in this age with all its very strict rules of what to do. And Arjuna was the close friend of Krishna. He had the personal association of the Lord, but still he's saying he can't do it. So it's extremely difficult in this age. Kali Yuga, the age we're in, is characterized by quarrel, hypocrisy, weakness in character, weak memory. So all good qualities actually deteriorate due to the influence of this age. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes Brahma Vaivarta Purana. Ata kalo tapo yoga vidya yagya dika kriya sangha bhavanti na krita kushaler api dehibi. Thus, in the age of Kali, the practices of austerity, yoga, meditation, deity worship, sacrifice, and so on, along with their various subsidiary functions, are not properly carried out, even by the most expert embodied souls. So they're saying that, this verse is saying that all the previous processes like meditation, sacrifices, deity worship even, are not carried out properly in this age. People may try to do it, but it's not the prescribed process of this age. In Kali Yuga, our process is the chanting of the holy names. That's what we have. Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatir Anyata. In this age of Kali, there is no other way of self-realization than chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names, chanting the holy names. So And Lord Chaitanya has given us this process. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 3, verse 52, there's another verse that says, Kriteya dhyayato Vishnum, Tretayam yajato make, Dwapare paricharyayam, Kalo tadari kirtanat. Whatever result was obtained in Satya Yuga by meditating on Vishnu, in Treta Yuga by performing sacrifices, and in Dwapar Yuga by serving the Lord's lotus feet, can be obtained in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So in Satya Yuga, the prescribed process was meditation. In Treta Yuga, it was performing sacrifices. In Dwapar Yuga, it was deity worship. And in Kali Yuga, it's chanting the holy names. And it says here that it's in each of these ages, they're all giving the same benefit. So this is the prescribed, most easy practice that we have to do. And in Kali Yuga, that's the one benefit of Kali Yuga. It says in Bhagavatam, even though Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, the one good thing is that we can attain the highest perfection just by chanting the holy names. And it's a very easy process. We have the easiest process here because it's such a difficult age. We don't have to meditate for thousands of years like the sages and perform great elaborate sacrifices with many, many ingredients and perform very opulent deity worship. We just have to chant the holy name. In Bhagavad-gita, verse 9, chapter 9, verse 14, it says, Satatam kirtayam tomam yatan tascha yudavrata namas yantas chamam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. Always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So even Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita that chanting the holy names is the way to worship him. So we are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada came and started this Hare Krishna revolution here. He spread Krishna consciousness all over the world from this very spot. And I was thinking about how he came and he used to just give classes here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to a few people. And then one day he took the chanting out on the street. He took it to Tompkins Square Park, just down the road. And now we're reaping the benefits of what he did. He did that and it seemed small. It was just a group of people and they took it out. But from there, it's expanded all over the whole world. And there's 800 centers and so many farm communities and so many Hare Krishna restaurants and so many people chanting and so many activities to share the mercy of Krishna all over the world just by Srila Prabhupada starting here. Imagine how sacred this place is. So Srila Prabhupada has brought us the fortune of Krishna consciousness. He has given us the mission of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's carried it forward. And he was empowered by his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In a class I listened to by His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj, he said that we become empowered when we take into our hearts the powerful desire of the spiritual master. And we can see that's what Srila Prabhupada did. He took into his heart the desire of his spiritual master, and that's what empowered him. And he was so fixed and determined with that desire. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur told him to print books and preach in English. And that's what he took that in, and that he made that his life and soul. He had so much faith in his spiritual master and great determination to carry out his orders. And then when he came, he empowered his disciples to carry forth the mission also. In Nectar of Instruction, it says that we need 3 things for devotional service: enthusiasm, determination, and patience. And Srila Prabhupada was such a perfect example for us of enthusiasm, determination, and patience, because he never wavered in his enthusiasm. He was always enthusiastic, no matter what the circumstances were, even if it was very difficult, even if it looked impossible, he remained enthusiastic. And he was always determined that he will fulfill his spiritual master's instruction. He never quit. And patience, even if something was really challenging for really long, he never quit. He never got despondent. He just kept going. And he knew that some things would take years, but he's just going to keep going. So now we have inherited the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Srila Prabhupada, because he brought it to the West, and then as his followers, we're trying to carry it forward further. So, and it's our duty actually to carry it forward. New York City is a gold mine of opportunities to share Krishna consciousness. We see that it's a Sankirtan paradise. Sankirtan means congregational chanting of the holy names, to all be together sharing the mercy. And there's so many incredible programs currently going on in New York that involve sharing Krishna consciousness, like the Harinam party goes out every day under the guidance of His Grace Ram Rai Prabhu, and that's very inspiring. That's like the heartbeat of New York to me. It's so enlivening, and it's just cutting through the layers of ignorance and filling the atmosphere with auspiciousness. And there's amazing programs at Bhakti Center. They have their Thursday night kirtan, their Tuesday program, a Saturday program. And at Brooklyn Temple, we have so many wonderful programs also, Sunday, Tuesday. And so there's always, I think every single day in New York, there's some kirtan going on somewhere other than the Harinam party. There's serenity retreats now, and so many things. So there's so many opportunities to absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness and to share it forward. So we just need to expand whatever we've received from Srila Prabhupada. And we'll find that when we start to share Krishna consciousness, that's when the real adventure begins. I think that the devotees who are always sharing and giving Krishna consciousness, they have the best stories. I don't know if anyone here has that experience of like taking it forward and having some adventure happen to them. Anyone? I know I've had a few, because like when we're trying to share what Srila Prabhupada has given us, the mercy of Krishna consciousness, it's like unbelievable things happen. You know, it's like you can't make the stories up sometimes. Like we really feel Krishna's presence and his intervention in our lives. It's like we feel like only Krishna could have done that. And he really takes charge because he's saying we're trying to do something to serve him. So when I was, a few years ago, actually a few times I did this, I took a vow to try to share at least one of Srila Prabhupada's books every single day for 108 days in a row. And that was like, it seemed impossible because there's so many times we try to go out and share something about Krishna and nobody's interested, nobody takes it. And so to take that vow also just, I thought I was just like setting myself up for failure. But by doing that, by making that mental decision, and I actually did it on Balaram Purnima, so it was like a day of great spiritual strength and lots of mercy from Lord Balaram. But I took that vow and I tried. And because of that vow, it's like that determination, Krishna just reciprocated in many ways. He made all the arrangements. I could see that every time I met someone and they were actually interested, I was like, this is Krishna, because this would not have happened on any other day. So, and I was actually able to complete this twice. I did this like 2 years in a row, and I was grateful that I could see Krishna's hand in everything. And sometimes it was very difficult. Like I'd only have like a few minutes to try and distribute. It's like I was like working all day, and then I tried to go out after work to some nearby shopping mall in South Africa where I lived. And it's not like I had a lot of time. There's always just a few minutes, and I thought, what's the chances of distributing a book in a few minutes? Usually we can try for a whole day and like nobody will take a book, you know. And then somehow like the first person I'd meet, so very quickly a book would be distributed, and I just think, wow, look at the mercy of Krishna. And there was one time when I went to just like, you know, down the road to just get like bread and milk or something. And I didn't even carry books in my hand. But someone asked me, do you have a Bhagavad-gita? Just out of the blue. You know, and I wasn't dressed like a Vaishnava, but they just asked me that. And I thought, what an unbelievable thing. You know, it's like just at that moment, I was there for like 2 minutes. And somehow, just by our paths just crossed at that exact time. And then, so then I quickly ran to the car, got the Bhagavad-gita and gave it to him. And it was in a place that you would never expect people to be interested in spiritual life. It was a place where people were smoking, drinking, doing all kinds of things that generally spiritualists don't do. So that's another thing that like the most unlikely people end up taking up spiritual life. Another time I donated money to I thought it was a devotee, because the devotee was doing some fundraiser for their project, and I donated money, but I actually put in the account details wrong that I was donating to, 1 digit off. And then they told me they didn't receive it, and then I looked and I realized I made a mistake. And then I tried to call the bank and tried to like get the details of this account that I put money into. And you know, the bank didn't want to give the details. It was like a whole thing. But somehow I ended up getting the details. And then I tried, and the bank said they tried to contact the person, but they couldn't get through. So then, but they gave me the details. So I tried to contact the person, and for months this person did not answer the phone. It was like, it seemed like a lost cause. And then like maybe 4 or 5 months later, and I kept trying like every few weeks, and then, you know, giving up, then trying again. So 4 or 5 months later, I finally got through to this person, and she apologized, saying she's been so sick, she's actually dying of cancer. She has like terminal cancer, and you know, she only has a very short while to live. And then I thought, wow, look at, you know, this opportunity to like be connected with someone who's basically on their deathbed. And then so immediately I just started like speaking about Krishna consciousness to them, you know, sharing. I sent them some Veda-based links and kirtan so that she could listen to it. And she was saying it actually made her feel peaceful. And I thought how amazing it was that this is a complete stranger that I've never even met. But it's like Krishna arranged this confusion with the, you know, the bank account, and so that I could reach out to this person in some way and like make their end of life a little better by letting them hear the holy names and read about Krishna and hear something about Krishna. So I thought that was amazing, because it's actually our duty, you know, at the end of life is the most critical time for people. If we can give them something about spiritual life that's really valuable to them. So there's so many instances like this where we have like almost like miraculous little experience, like Krishna magic. And like one time I was distributing books at the mall, and I was talking to one person, and another person who was just a bystander saw me and then asked me like, what are these books about? So then I started showing him the books, and then he ended up saying he's a detective and he's going through a lot of like mental anxiety, and because of all the things that he's, you know, finding out as a detective. And then he ended up just buying a whole stack of books from me, just kept taking more and more and more. And he was really rich. He kept saying that like for him to buy all those books was like nothing, because he said he has everything but he's still in anxiety, you know. So then there's the practical experience that people have with they can have everything but they're still unhappy, they're still in anxiety, and they need Krishna consciousness. So there's so many experiences that we have when we're trying to share Krishna consciousness, and by trying to share and seeing Krishna's hand in everything, it increases our faith. The reason I'm speaking so much about book distribution particularly is because we just went on our monthly Sankirtan festival today at Brooklyn Temple, organized by the Divyangi. We had a group of devotees just coming together just to go and try on the street to distribute books. You know, and it was nice. And we all do it together. Everyone does a little, but it ends up being a lot. And everybody had a really nice, fun time. So, and that's our goal. Our goal is to increase our absorption in Krishna. So whatever we can, however we can do it, in whatever way appeals to us, and in whatever our nature is, we should try to engage that in Krishna's service. Everybody has a different nature. So not everyone will want to go out on the street and distribute books. That's okay. Some people may preach through social media. They may post different, interesting articles or pictures or videos, and that create interest in other people. Some people may just want to cook for the devotees, and it's all equal. It's all equally pleasing to Krishna, and it's all service to the Sankirtan movement, to Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement. And so our goal is to increase our absorption in Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes, and to encourage others to do the same. And we want to be remembering and serving Krishna 24/7, because that is the consciousness of the spiritual world, and that is where we're trying to go to. So for us, that's our samadhi. It's not sitting, meditating, peacefully, well, in a very strict, rigid way within. Our samadhi is using everything. Our entire consciousness should be absorbed in Krishna. And there's a really nice verse in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, verses 18 to 20, that speak about how to engage the mind and all the senses in Krishna's service. Maharaj Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna, his words in describing the glories of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the Lord's temple, and his ears in hearing the words spoken by Krishna or about Krishna. He engaged his eyes in seeing the deity of Krishna, Krishna's temples, and Krishna's places like Mathura and Vrindavan. He engaged his sense of touch in touching the bodies of the Lord's devotees. He engaged his sense of smell in smelling the fragrance of tulsi offered to the Lord. And he engaged his tongue in tasting the Lord's prasad. He engaged his legs in walking to the holy places and temples of the Lord, his head in bowing down before the Lord, and all his desires in serving the Lord 24 hours a day. Indeed, Maharaj Ambarish never desired anything for his own sense gratification. He engaged all his senses in devotional service, in various engagements related to the Lord. This is the way to increase attachment for the Lord and be completely free from all material desires. So that's a beautiful verse that we can learn so much from, because it's explaining what we can do with our limbs to serve Krishna. And so this is a very encouraging part of the chapter, because Krishna is giving us hope that in our endeavors nothing can be destroyed. However, it's important for us to know that even though our spiritual progress can never be lost, if we commit offenses, then it becomes detrimental to our spiritual lives. We don't lose our progress, but it's held in abeyance. That's what it said. It's like when you have a bank account and you have all your spiritual credit going in there. But when you commit offenses, it's like your bank account gets frozen. So you can't use it. It's still there, but you can't use it. And you don't feel the nourishment from it. So that's what committing offenses is similar to. And then it feels like we lost our progress. And sometimes committing offenses actually makes us unenthusiastic to practice Krishna consciousness, and then we may actually leave our process. So committing offenses is actually worse than committing sinful activities, because sinful activities have a reaction. You get a reaction and it's painful. But offenses can actually kick you out of spiritual life. So it's important to know, even though we don't lose anything, offenses to devotees and to the holy name are very dangerous for spiritual advancement. So I'll end here, and if there's any questions or comments or contributions, or anyone wants to share experiences or any thoughts, please let. Yes.
Hi, Hare Krishna. And thanks for sharing. I had a question. The Lord says, if in your next lifetime, if you're not successful in this lifetime, in your spiritual advancement and what have you, how will you know once you are born? First of all, will you be born into the same faith that we have? Will we be born? Will I be born into a Hindu family? Will I, or will it be through another faith? Hopefully not. That's my prayer. And how will you know where to pick up from the last time?
This is such a wonderful question, actually, because I was listening to a few lectures where this question was brought up, and so it says that in our next life, if we don't complete the process, in our next life, we either get born into, and we either go to the heavenly planets and experience our pious results, and then we come back down, and then we're born into an aristocratic family, and then, or we're born into a family of transcendentalists. So it can be that we're born into a devotee family, and that's great. Or it can be that we're born into a different family that has a very good situation, and then it becomes easier to take up spiritual life because you don't have any other anxieties, like at least in South Africa where I'm from, people are very poor. People are really, really struggling. So if you go to them with a book, they're not interested because they don't have food. They don't have a basic necessity. So when people are struggling, sometimes it's easier because they're destitute and they're like, I need God. Or sometimes they just, I can't focus on this. You're so insensitive. You're giving me a book when I don't have food, I don't have shelter, I don't have anything. So it's like both ways. But if you have a nice situation at home, and you brought up well, then you don't really have any anxieties, then sometimes it's easier to just pick up spiritual life, if you're born in a pious family. Or sometimes it's easier to just ignore it because you think my life is perfect, I don't need God. So there's also two ways of that. But generally you see that you see it organically. It's not like when we're born we know, oh, this is where I left off in my previous life and now let me continue. You see it when we on Harinam and there's a child who's spontaneously attracted to the Harinam, and the mother's like, no, come, don't stop, like come with me, and the mother's like dragging the child away, but the child just wants to dance and be in the Harinam, spontaneously. And then you get people like that who are attracted easily and people who are not. Like some people come and say, wow, what's this? Oh my God, I've been looking for you guys all my life. This book, this answers all my questions that I've ever had. And some people are like, no, I'm good, thanks. So it's like that. So we don't consciously know, like for ourselves, when we're the one who's born, we're not going to know where we left off and stuff. We just know that I'm interested or I'm not interested. But we can see with others, when they come and they're just automatically interested, you know that it's from a previous life. Actually, my spiritual teacher, Kadambakanana Maharaj, would say that all of us who are here now, it's because we were somehow connected before. That's how we're here. But we don't know, like I wasn't born in a devotee family, but I was born in a family that knew devotees, and then somehow we're connected and it spread to my family. But he said that everybody who's here now in Krishna consciousness was somehow here before, and we didn't make it back to Godhead, and that's why we're here now, He says like we failed in the previous life. So that's how it is. I don't think it's like we'll know for sure, where do we pick up, but we can see, like one of my friends was telling me, she's Western bodied, and when she first came to the temple, it was like natural, She came to the morning program. There's all these prayers she's reciting at 4:30 a.m. She's like, cool. They're all worshipping a plant in front of her, Tulsi. They're all bowing down to the plant. And she's like, great, this is normal. Like, this is natural. Like, she wasn't freaked out by that at all. And someone else might come in and be figured out. I can say personally for me, I'm born in an Indian family. It was weird. It was weird to come to the temple and be constantly bowing down, even though I'm from like Indian culture. But still, I'm not from India. I'm from South Africa, where we've like significantly lost Indian culture. So I'm basically Western. But so for me, a lot of things were weird. And then you see so many Western people who just pick it up and it's natural. And then you can see it's from a previous life, that they're not deterred by anything. So it's like that. Any other? Yes?
So, like you said, when we're born again and we have some roots already in our past life, what if someone does not have roots in their past life? Just thinking hypothetically, how can someone be forced into it, or can someone be, if I want someone to understand this, someone to also taste the same thing that I have tasted, is that something that can be done? Who is like miles away from it right now? How do you start doing that?
That's such an amazing question, because this is like the eternal question, how did we come in contact with Krishna consciousness? We can say how we did it in this life, but that means we did it in a previous life. Then we can try and figure out how it was in the previous life. But eventually the answer is somehow or other, by great mercy, we've come in contact. We don't know how we've come in contact, but it was the mercy of a devotee. Somebody at somewhere in our lives or in our cycle of birth and death has given us mercy, has extended that mercy to us. So even if someone has never had any experience with it, then you can be that devotee that gives them the mercy. You can be that first point of contact. And it doesn't mean it's going to work immediately. It just means that you may introduce something to them which they will, be completely against. And then in 10 years' time, someone else will come and then, push forth the same point, and then they might be more receptive or might not. Or maybe they'll never be receptive in this life. Then in the next life, they'll be more receptive, having experienced it in this life. So even if they don't know you're giving them mercy, some people are so against Krishna consciousness that you actually can't give them mercy in a very visible way. You have to give them what we call agyata sukriti, which is unknown spiritual benefit. Something that they don't know this is giving them any benefit. Like just simply wearing tilak, that gives people benefit by seeing the devotee with tilak. We can give prasadam. That's the best, easiest way to share, because everybody loves delicious food. And maybe not everyone's going to take a book, but everyone will take food if it's yummy, right? And then the holy names, some will be attracted, few will will not be attracted, few will say like, what are you guys doing, like the Harinam. But mostly the holy name is very attractive. Mostly people love kirtan. They don't even know what's going on, but they love it. So be that person that introduces it to them if you can. And then also be patient, because we can't force it. One thing, bhakti can be many things, but it can't be forced, because love cannot be forced. This is a process of loving Krishna. If we were forced into it, it wouldn't be love. It would be out of fear or duty. So sometimes we just have to give and then wait and be detached from the result. Let whatever, like Krishna is actually in charge of the result. It's not us. So when we are sharing Krishna consciousness, we have to realize we are not actually the doers. Krishna is the one who is allowing people to accept his mercy when they're ready. And we are just his instruments. We're just handing it out. But it's him that's allowing them, or inspiring them from within the heart to take it up or not take it up. And we have to simply do our duty and be detached. If we get attached, then we think we're doing it. We think I'm the doer, I'm in charge, but it's not us, it's Krishna. So our duty is simply to give, like how Arjuna's duty was just to fight. Krishna told him, don't be attached to the results, winning or losing. You just have to fight, that's your duty. And then Krishna is going to take responsibility for the result. He's going to arrange who's winning. So for us, our battlefield is actually the battle against Maya, the battle against the material energy, like it said in that explanation, war on Maya. And we're doing that by vigorously sharing Krishna consciousness with others. But that's our duty, and we're doing it, but Krishna is in charge of who actually, the success or failure of it. And for us, there's actually no failure because we're doing our duty. We're doing what we're meant to do. And another point that Vaisheshika Prabhu makes about sharing Krishna consciousness is that some people are ripe fruit and some people are unripe fruit. And he says, it describes when you see an unripe fruit on the tree, what do? Do you like yank it off the tree and beat people down? Or do you just kind of leave it on the tree and let it ripen? A ripe fruit will come off naturally, easily. But an unripe fruit will be very difficult. So he said, just let it ripen over time. So people are like that. We see it on the street. Some people are very happy, very open. When you share something with them, they're like, oh yeah, definitely, engaging. Some people, as soon as you see them, they're like, leave me alone, I don't want this, they're unripe. So we cannot, if we go and harass them, it's going to just create like a bad experience for both people because they're going to be irritated, they're going to say something, we're going to be discouraged. So we just leave them. So some people, if they're very, very like antagonistic to it, the process is just leave them and try and give mercy in ways that they don't know that it's mercy.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Thank you for coming, Madhuri, and speaking right here, 26th Avenue. Can you speak a little more about the role of Durga in the material manifestation? Because I always thought that she was like the jail warden, in charge of the material world to keep people from escaping
Yeah.
and leave us. Can you speak a little more about what you know about that?
I mean, all I know is that it seems like, okay, she's out to get us, but actually she's just trying to protect the spiritual world from having unqualified people in it. And so she's actually doing a service to Krishna because see, she's his energy. In the spirit, he's got his spiritual energy and his material energy, but he's governing both. So he's actually governing the material energy. Anything that happens to us by the material energy is just ultimately governed by Krishna. So it's not like she and Krishna are on different sides. She is testing us, but it's all under the guidance of Krishna. And therefore, and her tests are meant to strengthen us, meant to like purify us, kind of like, when a diamond is put under pressure, it's like that. So she's meant to make sure that when we go to the spiritual world, we're actually pure. And if you think about it, she's performing service to Krishna 24 hours a day because she's testing everyone all the time. We are performing service like few hours a day, however much time we can do some service here and there amongst all the other things we're doing. But she's serving Krishna 24 hours a day, all the time with everyone, never stopping. So if we see her like that, then we don't see her like the devil. Like in other religions, there's like good, there's like God and the devil, and it's like war. But the material energy is doing a service. For us, it's very dangerous. We should be sufficiently afraid of Maya. That's what Prabhupada said. His disciples were, he quoted, he commented once that his disciples are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And that means that we're not seeing the test that can come by our interactions, by what we're doing. We're not seeing how she can use that to to trap us. So he's saying we should be afraid in the sense that we don't get entangled. Because with Maya, it's like if you give her an inch, she'll take more than that. So if you leave a little room for Maya to enter into your life, she will, burst through. It won't be like a hole in the wall. It will be like the wall broke down. That's how it is with the material energy. So we should be afraid. But she's not evil. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just asking because some people will perceive her as very cruel
Mm.
because of the multiple temptations we are subjected here.
Yeah.
For some people who think that they give them no chance, but
I didn't get that last
some
one.
people will perceive as they won't have any chance.
Yeah.
Maya, because she's so clever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that will actually she can actually help you. So I heard that somebody said that she can actually help you once you are pure devotee and once you are in control of your mind, your intelligence. I don't know how that works.
I mean, it's said that with Maya, it is said that she is insurmountable. The material energy is insurmountable. We can't overcome her influence on our own. The only way is to take shelter of Krishna. But for the pure devotee who is always under the shelter of Krishna, then Maya is not able to touch them. So that in that way, it's like when you're a pure devotee, then you don't have to worry. But for us, we're not pure devotees. The material energy is not going to be overcome by our efforts, by us saying, I will overcome her. We don't have the strength. She's much more powerful than us. But more powerful than her is Krishna. So if we take shelter of Krishna, then we're protected.
One more. So you spoke a little bit about the two paths. One is through the path of meditation, or should I call it Raja Yoga?
It is Astanga Yoga.
Yes, Raja Yoga. So, and the path of Bhakti Yoga. And you said that they both end up meeting at Samadhi, right? That's where Bhakti is also taking you. What about the other two paths? So, what would Samadhi look like through Jnana Yoga and Karma?
I mean, I don't know because it just seems so impractical. I mean, from the description here, it's like a state of being completely absorbed in trance, in this, this very, very difficult position of having like your head erect and, everything in a line and your air moving through your body from the stomach to the navel, from the navel to the chest, all of that. It's like complicated. So I mean, other than because I don't have experience of it. It's very complicated to think of in these other two paths, which Prabhupada is saying in the purport are very difficult. He's saying that those are the indirect paths because they're difficult. Not only are they very difficult, but when you attain them, you sometimes may not stay in them. You can fall from them very easily. So, but what I have seen is my spiritual teacher, and when he was leaving his body, and he was a pure devotee. So for him, practicing his Krishna consciousness throughout his life, serving very practically in this Hare Krishna movement. And you may think, if you're doing so much, you're so busily engaged, like where's the time to sit and be absorbed and meditate on Krishna? But the path of bhakti is that it's devotional service. It's activity in Krishna consciousness. It's not just like a mental thing where you just think. So he was very, very busily engaged, always like 24/7 doing something, serving people. If he wasn't, doing big preaching programs, Harinams, then he was giving his time to devotees, extending himself to assist them in whatever way they need all the time. And I always wondered, where does he have time for his own absorption? But when he was leaving his body, I could see how all of that practical activity in Krishna's service, the result was that when it was time to leave his body, Krishna, because of his pure service for so many years, his whole life, Krishna came into his mind. You know, Krishna, his consciousness, his body, everything was absorbed in Krishna. And actually, he didn't have the effects, he didn't feel the effects of having bodily disease and, you know, all the difficulties that come with having cancer and the pain. He didn't have the effects because he was on the transcendental platform, and he was still serving, still engaging, still meeting people, still, you know, taking people out on pilgrimage and doing kirtans, doing programs and everything, always right up until the end. And then at the end, he could peacefully just be absorbed in Krishna. So that's what I've seen. And so for me, that's like the perfection. You know, that's also someone relatable, someone that we've seen personally in the last few years. So rather than seeing, you know, a sage in the book who's sitting in the forest on a deer skin and kusa grass and head erect, something I can't perceive and can't do, and look at the practical examples that we have seen of devotees who just gave their life in service, and then at the end, somehow Krishna came into their mind. It was clear to everyone that he went back to Godhead. Every single thing about his departure was auspicious. At the most auspicious time, in the most auspicious place, among the most auspicious people, surrounded by all auspicious elements, his deity, his spiritual master, so many exalted devotees, like it couldn't be more auspicious. So we know he went back to Godhead. So that's the example I find of samadhi. And it's like, that for me is like the goal in Krishna consciousness. If there's nothing else, we can end here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Would you like to do the Natha Kirtan?
I don't know, does anybody else want to lead Kirtan? Probably, do you lead?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you can lead Kirtan.
Can we use the
You can use me.
Yes, I can just, for 15, 20 minutes.
It's in front of you.
Yeah, yeah,